So this phenomenal grass chopping hot rod is a Ferris ISZ modeled mower. It's got a Kawasaki power plant, 2 hydraulic pumps, 2 hydraulic motors, and the desire to cut down just about anything I drive it into. You got your left side hydraulic filter here. That's for just the left side drive motor. Over on this side, you got the right-hand hydraulic filter. That is just for the right-hand drive. This here is just the oil filter for the Kawasaki power plant, nothing else. And the yellow cap to the right is where you put your engine oil in. And this dangly-do right here is going to drain the oil from the crankcase of the Kawasaki motor. These filters here are both acceptable hydraulic filters for either the left or right hand system. I just happen to have one of each because who knows why, but you could use either one on either side. It doesn't really matter. They're both compatible. You're going to want to have a drain pan to catch everything that comes out. The lower right hand corner there is an excerpt from the owner's manual of this particular machine. So it shows you specifically what you'd want for hydraulic fluid and how you would check the fluid levels once you've topped everything off and changed your filter out and whatnot. So what's pretty apparent here is you don't want to stick plain old hydraulic fluid in these machines. You want to use these synthetic motor oils that they tell you to use. Changing out this filter is a sloppy mess. There's really no good way to go about this. Just prepare yourself to put fluid everywhere. Don't forget to label up that filter so you know when you did it and how many hours were on the machine when you did it. And once that's done, you want to check to make sure your tank's got the appropriate amount of fluid in it. That wooden dowel has a zip tie on it at 3 inches above the bottom. You want your fluid level pretty close to that when it's cold. So this side's good. Move on to the other side. Same rule applies for the right-hand hydraulic system. Use those fluids that the manual tells you to use. Don't use plain old hydraulic fluid. Lube up that gasket and get ready to change out that filter. Tried a different approach on this one. Set a rag underneath it and then swapped out the filter fast, and it was quite a bit less messy. So maybe I'll keep trying that system. This tank had been pretty low before I started this whole filter change process, so it needed as much fluid as I had to put into it. Didn't have anything to do with the filter change. That might be a video coming up for later why that's leaking fluid. Now it's time for that Kawasaki power plant using a CarQuest filter. The number's there, so if you wanted to cross it to something else that you'd prefer to use brand-wise, I'm good with the CarQuest filters, so that's what I'm using. Straight 1030 oil, nothing fancy. It's just a plain old motor, so it doesn't require anything exotic. Getting down to this filter and around those hydraulic lines isn't the easiest thing and tends to make a mess when you take it out. Kind of falls away from you, but you get used to doing it after a bit. Oh. And if I'm not making a mess, would I really be changing oil? While I'm tightening down that filter, I'd like to ask everybody to consider throwing a like, comment, and subscribe my way. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks a lot. So these drain hoses just hook up to the crankcase drains for the motor oil. I like to use them on a bunch of different things. It makes it a lot less messy for draining the oil out of it. So when you take that lug off the end of this little hose, it's just going to drain the motor oil from the crankcase so you're not pouring it all over the platform the motor sits on. And if you open up that fill port where you pour the oil into the crankcase, that usually lets it drain out just a little quicker. While you're here and waiting, why not check your air filter, see if that looks pretty good. This one's pretty clean, it went in fairly recently, so just kind of taking a quick peek. Also a good opportune time to clean up the mess that got made while you were taking that filter off the motor, because it dumps oil all over that platform. Now the crankcase is empty, just turn that lug on, tighten that up, and you've drained the oil out of that motor. You've already changed the filter out. Now after this is tightened up, all you got to do is top off that motor with fresh oil. About 1.5 quarts is what ends up going into this when it gets drained and refilled. And we are done. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.